Finn was back and Scotland were hoping for a first victory against the All Blacks. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. A lot of the talk in the lead up to this one was about Finn Russell being back in that Scotland squad, having been left out initially by Gregor Townsend for these November internationals. Some murmurings, mostly from fans, it has to be said, about whether Townsend is the right man for the job if he can't find a way to work with Russell. But then we do also have to remember that his opposite number in Foster was under pressure earlier on in the year for his own position as well. He's gone on a pretty good run since then. I'm not sure whether Townsend is going to be able to do the same with Scotland, but I don't think that they are going to change him this close to the World Cup. Now, onto the game itself. So New Zealand started much the better of the two sides. They've got nice line speed. They're being very aggressive at the breakdown. They're turning over ball. We're seeing Savea and Papali'i being very prominent there. New Zealand are kind of starving Scotland of position and possession in that kind of first 15 minutes or so. New Zealand worked the ball up on the left-hand side. Then we see a crossfield kick from, I'm not sure which bar it was, but it's definitely one of the bars. Puts the crossfield kick to Talea, who is on debut for New Zealand. He then shows some nice footwork and some good power as well to make some good yards for them. New Zealand are into the Scotland 22. They're picking and driving, they're going close to the line. And then finally it's Takiaho who burrows, he doesn't really burrow his way over. He kind of forces his way kind of close to the line and then is able to stretch out and score the try. That's converted for 7-0. We're on about 3 or 4 minutes at this point. Then New Zealand come back again. We see a nice kick through from Bowden Barrett. So kicks it through along the ground. Eventually the ball gets to Caleb Clark. He puts in a nice run. It takes a lot to put him down. New Zealand are sucking in the Scotland defence over on the left wing. And then Jordy Barrett then puts in another crossfield kick to Talea. This time he's all alone. Simple catch and run in for him for his first try on debut for New Zealand. Converted for 14-0, looking very ominous for Scotland. Scotland then, they start to work their way back into the game. We're seeing Schumann with the hard carries. We're also seeing Ritchie and Watson being more prominent at the breakdown as well. The ball seems somewhat more secure, and Fagerson as well is having, an impact there as well. So the back row kind of start coming into the game around this time. And Scotland are, as I said, they're applying pressure. We then have Scotland are on attack, and Hogg puts in a nice clever kick, kicks it over the New Zealand defence, and it goes in behind the post. He uses pace to try to get to the ball first, but Leonard Brown tackles him off the ball. Ball bounces dead into touch, and referee decides to have another look at it. They decide that Leonard Brown prevented a probable try from being scored, so therefore it's a penalty try. He gets yellow carded, 10 minutes in the bin for him, and then it's 14-7 at that point. I know that shortly after, I'm not sure of the sequence of events, but I know shortly after, Scotland do lose Watson to injury at that point, and Dempsey comes on to replace him. So Dempsey was a Wallaby, right? Yeah, he was a Wallaby international, but 3 years have passed since then, so he was able to represent Scotland. But he comes into their back row. Scotland strike again, but this time it's off New Zealand ball. So New Zealand, again, they turn over the ball and they're breaking, and they've got a position. It was Havili, right? Yeah, Havili is running with the ball. He's got Barrett outside him. He tries to put the pass in, but Darcy Graham gets in between the two of them. He intercepts. He goes around Jordy Barrett, and then Caleb Clark as well on his way to the line. So nice footwork from him, and he gets in, scores a try. It is converted by Russell, and then we are all square at 14 all. Scotland are, they're putting on a bit of pressure against New Zealand. They're kind of like they're getting close to the line a couple of times, but then New Zealand, their breakdown work is really good. They're able to get in there and disrupt, and they're able to win penalties to help them to clear. But at one point then, Scotland have advantage. They have advantage for a penalty. Russell tries a kick, crossfield kick. It kind of beats everyone and goes into touch. So back for the penalty. He puts that over. Scotland 17-14 in the lead. It could have been a lot better for so then going into half time. Just before half time, Scotland are again, they're attacking. They're pretty much on the New Zealand line. They're a couple of meters short. Again, New Zealand are able to get in. They get over the ball. They win the penalty, and the clock has gone into the red. So they tap and kick it off the field. So Scotland winning 17-14 at half time. But even at that stage, you feel like they're going to have to put on a lot more scores in the second half if they're going to win this one. But at least they feel like they've got a chance in that one. So then second half, then Scotland again, they start pretty brightly. They have some nice attacks. There was one where, who is it? Hogg puts in another burst out in the left wing, and he goes close to the line, offloads. Who was it? I can't remember who it was in the follow-up, but New Zealand again get over the ball, so they're able to prevent them there, but I think we were playing advantage, so we come back for the penalty. Russell, in that kind of period, that was just after half-time, right? Pop over the penalty, then on about 53, 54 minutes, same kind of situation. Scotland on attack. They're making ground, but once they're kind of getting close to the line, they can't really break over. So they come back, kick the penalty. At that point then, they're up 23-14. You're thinking that, okay, if they can keep this going, then they have a chance, but they still need to be adding on those points. And also watching it, I'm thinking that they need to score more tries as well, because even if they're ticking over 3-3-3, their defense is not good enough. We've seen it in the first half. Defense is not good enough to be able to stretch the lead enough that New Zealand can't come back at them. Unfortunately for Scotland, 54th minute was pretty much the last time we see them scoring. New Zealand then are coming back on attack. They have a move that breaks down, but we're playing advantage. So Barrett pops over another penalty to make it 23-17. At that point, it's Scotland's turn then to get a yellow card. So Scotland are defending under the post. Dempsey goes for a tackle, but his hand also approaches the ball. It looks like one of these ones where he's trying to make look like he's rapping for the tackle, but also going for the ball. Referee doesn't really buy it, so he gets a yellow card. 10 minutes in the bin. From there, then New Zealand are able to attack the line. They're very close to the line. Scott Barrett is able to force his way over. It's then converted by Geordie, and New Zealand back into the lead at 24-23. At that point, Scotland not really offering much, not really coming back from there. And we got about, 5 minutes to go, I think it was. And New Zealand on attack again. They find some space out on the right wing. Talea, they get the ball to him, and he goes over for his second of the game. Geordie Barrett then converts from out wide, makes it 31-23. Scotland need to score twice to come back, but from there the game kind of fizzles out. New Zealand are able to control it, and Scotland did have another one, I think, in the first half, right? Yeah, it was Darcy Graham, where they worked the ball out to the right wing, and it was, who was it? Was it Hogg or Russell? One of the two, probably Hogg, I think. Kind of delayed his pass to him just a little bit, and Darcy Graham pretty much ran out of room, so he ended up putting a foot in touch just before dotting down right at the flag. And if they'd scored that one, maybe Scotland could have had a chance. But I think that really for them, they needed to score in that last 25 minutes. They needed to be kind of, pulling away from New Zealand more once they hit that front. Once they were in like 23-14 and then New Zealand peg it back to 23-17, that's the kind of period that they needed to score in, I feel, if they're going to win that one. They needed to stretch it out to, 30 and then 35 or whatever, and then make it really hard for New Zealand to come back, because New Zealand are the masters at this kind of comeback where they can score a couple of tries against you and suddenly turn the whole thing around. And I don't think Scotland had it in them to be able to do that. But it was still a very good effort from Scotland. But still, there comes a time where being like the plucky loser in games like these, you've got to turn it around. And it's, as an Irish fan, I kind of, I can sympathize a lot with Scottish fans, how they feel after this one, that, there was a real chance there to win. And the next time they play, maybe Scotland can pull it off, or maybe New Zealand are just going to do what New Zealand do. And, this scoreline is going to be closer to the one from last week with them and Wales, but you never know. But still, there are positives there for Scotland. Russell did look good at 10, although, I think maybe comparing him to Barrett probably had the better game of the two, but still, there are certainly positives there. There are a lot of works-ons for them as well. I feel like they've got to definitely protect their ball much better. A lot of the time, they didn't resource the ruck, and we've seen New Zealand a lot go after the ball, because that's where the real danger is from New Zealand, is on the turnover ball, whether it's from your mistake or from them just getting in and pinching the ball. Their transition between defense and attack is so fast, it catches out pretty much every team in the world when they can get it right. So I felt that Scotland really needed to commit the numbers there and move the ball away from the point of contact a bit faster. You can see that they do have, they do have a decent attack, but you're going to have to score more than a couple of tries, I feel, to win a game like this. But also, if you're going to go for that type of like score of 23 and still winning, then your defense has to be a lot better than theirs was. I felt that New Zealand at times found it easy to go through the Scottish defense, and also found it easy to suck the Scottish defense in and find space on the opposite wing. And Scotland really weren't aware, or I don't know whether, they didn't defend this crossfield kicks terribly well. From New Zealand's point of view, what can you say? People have said that this is the worst New Zealand team ever and blah, blah, blah. But it's still a decent team. They've got some great players, and they've just shown that if you give them a chance to play, they're going to play no matter what. And I don't think they're going to worry too much about what labels people put on them. I know personally how I felt when Ireland blew leads against New Zealand in the past. And then from New Zealand, how are you feeling about how the team have gone through this one? And how do you think they're going to go next week as well against England?